Okay, the next item is price. $199, $199, $329. Now obviously there's more going on than just that simple step up in price, but as Dan and I discussed, there is definitely a psychological boundary there at $329. This is definitely a higher priced device. It's also the best built, but that's an entirely different category. If you're looking to spend under $300, obviously you're not getting the mini. These two are options. These are both. This is the 8 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte. Accessories. Nexus, you can probably find some covers for this. I know that some people are making them, and it's unclear how well the accessory market will build out for this. Kindle Fire, Amazon, you get some accessories. iPad mini, I haven't used anything yet. However, we're just seeing tons of accessories already coming through. And the reason for that is, guess what? When the next one of these comes out, it's going to be the exact same form factor. Just like, within some boundaries, the iPad 1, 2, and 3 are similar form factors, fit into a number of things. Cases obviously vary a little bit, but in general, it's a fairly stable format to work with. So it's a good investment for people to make. These two are much more iffy when it comes to accessories. Build quality. I talked about some of the build issues, like little things around where the glass is, tons of people having issues. This is not a bad system, the Nexus, but it is plasticky, it's got a bunch of metal, again, ill-fitting glass in some areas, and just some things that really reflect, what I would consider an average build quality. The Kindle Fire, I think, is pretty rock solid. It's actually a good build. You can see there's a generous bezel, there's a huge amount of kind of a rubber O-ring type fit that goes in. There's an awful lot that's put in to compensate for, for the way Apple does things. And again, Apple has got this diamond cut, they've got the tight glass, everything is just amazingly precision. And the other thing, and Dan and I both mentioned that, is that despite being incredibly thin, it's just rock solid. It is incredibly rock solid piece of hardware, and it just feels great to hold. The camera. We have a low-res front-facing, we have the actually higher-res front-facing, and then you have the 5-megapixel rear camera. And comparatively, doing this doesn't look as silly as doing it with the regular iPad, but I didn't care about that. If I had the iPad with me and I needed a camera, which around work, there'll be a number of things I need to document that would be running experiments, say that's interesting, or if I want to catch a bunch of settings on a control panel screen somewhere, always would use it. So now I have this, even smaller, always with me. Really good pictures. I think it's better than the iPad 3. I haven't been able to quantify it. I feel that it does a little bit better in some lower light situations, but it's got one, and it's got a decent one. App selection, capability, etc. Android Market, Amazon App Store, iTunes. So again, allowing for, aside from things I've specifically mentioned, which are games, tend to come to iOS first. Music is 100% iOS. Productivity definitely favors iOS. Aside from that, if you're looking for Slacker, I've got on all three, Hulu, etc., you're pretty well covered. You are not going to buy one of these 3 tablets and say, oh man, I wish I had done whatever. These are all capable systems as a general user. So it depends on if you're looking for specific things, that's when you really have to hone in. Battery life. This is kind of a huge one. I went to film this the other day, actually yesterday, and I had done an initial take I didn't like, and so I wanted to redo it. In between the 2 days in between that, sitting there having just been fully charged, this thing died. And this thing, for the day in between, we ran Slacker all day long, and it was still fine. And it still has battery life left. And this thing, as I've mentioned before, has just got insane battery life. The battery life on the Nexus 7, when you're actually using it, will run an all-day long thing. But the drainage, the off-use drainage is awful. So definitely when it comes to battery life, my day-to-day, how often do I have to charge this? The iPad mini towers head and shoulders above the rest. Kindle Fire's got very admirable combination of in-use and standby. Nexus 7 has got good in-use but abysmal standby battery life. Overall, and I think this is something that I highlighted with the chat with Dan, is that there's just something about the iPad mini. It's an iPad. It really just is an iPad. They've come up with the right amount of compromises that you get a large viewing area, all of your iPad apps work, you've got a good sized screen that will take your virtual keyboard, stretch it out. It's a very usable keyboard, so I don't mind typing on the glass. The Nexus 7, and this gets back to productivity, is that the screen, once again, is the aspect ratio is all wrong for anything but watching movies. When you're in this format, you are just too thin. Plus, you continue to lose at least a ½ an inch between the top and the bottom. Then you switch over to this side, and again, you're losing a ½ an inch total top and bottom. You have too little space, top to bottom, to be productive if you're typing something in, and this way it is just too narrow. You come over to the Kindle Fire, and similarly, you have got, you do have a narrowed space to work with, and that's not as bad as some other things, but the virtual keyboard and all of these ones just really is not that productive for me. It's certainly not compared to the iPad mini. The final thing, which really gets to storage space, is that although they have 16 gigabytes, and this one even has 8, there's a lot of system utilization here, so I'm not getting as much of those 8 gigabytes as I am of the 16 gigabytes on the iPad. So my effective utilization is lower on the Nexus 7. There's more system utilization. So, again, if I had to choose an Android tablet, no question in my mind, Kindle Fire HD. The sound is awesome, external micro HDMI, performance is solid, good app selection, good build quality. Really can't go wrong. 16 gigabytes for $199. But if I want everything in my life to be able to work, iPad mini. It is the iPad of small tablets. It's the best small tablet I've ever touched. This is Mike from Gear Diary. Thanks for watching.